Welcome to I Got the Smokes, Let's Ride podcast experience with me, BTCG, episode 16016, and it's 5 o'clock. That number's much more important than 16 because that means it's Friday and you are off the clock. Let's get in them doors, let's get that engine cranked up, and let's get to living. I highly recommend it. How you doing? How's your week? I hope you had a great week. I know my week has been full and delightful. Woo! Man, I got to tell you, I am so glad that I get to spend time with you. That's right. I am. I am so thankful that you're here, and we've got what I hope to be a fun show. I do. I don't know exactly what we're going to do. I got lots of thoughts in my head, lots of things going around, and I have a challenge dealing with this because this is March 30th when I'm shooting this. It's pre-PCA, and this is going to drop on the 18th of April. So that's 2.5 weeks almost from when I shoot it. So things that are going on in the world might be totally different, right? I mean, I don't know anything about PCA. Well, that's not true. I've not yet gone to New Orleans and experienced PCA, and there's going to be some great stories, I guarantee, coming from there. We're going to have a house, Airbnb with a pool and a pool table. Nice big fireplace. The First Lady's going to be there. Her friend Miss Tracy's going to be there. Me and Chief are going to be there. We've got some other fellers from media. Diddley Breakfast Club is going to be staying there. And then I think it's going to be the pop-off place where people are going to hang out. I think it's going to be really, really fun to be at. It's the first time we've ever had an Airbnb for any Bob the Cigar Guy stuff. So this will be interesting as well. Travel to and from. Very, very busy schedule. And so we are looking forward to that. And then after PCA, and this is why I'm doing all these videos so far ahead, is it's mine and the First Lady's anniversary week. 34 years of loved bliss, the best 10 years of her life. My life started the day I said I do. I'll tell you what, and it's been amazing ever since. But First Lady is patient, and I am blessed because she's had to work hard to turn this into this, and she's got a long way to go. But I am glad that I'm along on this ride. So, in doing these videos, all the videos we do, if I get something that's late breaking or something that really needs to be talked about in a timely manner, I would just shuffle them around. I have the ability, just a little information that you don't need to know. I have the ability on YouTube I'll post all these videos up and have them scheduled to drop at such and such a day and such a time. So I could do videos a year ago and post them up today, right? And have them drop from, I shot the video a year ago and it's actually being seen for the first time in a year, which makes it really easy because if I'm off for 2 weeks on a travel or a trip, I don't have a skip in content, and I'm working hard on doing that. I really want to get through 52 of these podcasts this year in a row. And so, excuse me, so holidays come, sickness comes, travel comes, and so being able to do that makes it much easier for me to be successful. But here's the problem. Something else could pop up, or if I get too far ahead, it may not be relevant to you because things change. Like, for instance, right now, not far down from the road from us is the nation's worst at this time wildfire. Smoke is in the air. People are getting evacuated. It has not been contained at all. I guess now it's up to like 9% contained. But the air is very dry. All that could change, and it could go away. It could be, the rain comes and it washes it down, or the firefighters get a hold of it, or it burns itself out, or whatever happens. And then, so if I sit here and talk to you about the fires that may not have any relevance. Or the fires have taken a turn and run into Travelers Rest, South Carolina, and I'm sitting in the middle of my road with nothing but ashes where my house and my studio used to be, which I would cry. If they evacuate us, I will not leave. If I can't protect my studio and my house, then I will sit near my studio while it burns, because I will at least smell the smoke of every last one of the cigars I have in here as I cry. I will send the First Lady and the dogs on, but I will stand ground on our property. I am South Carolina Southern, Florida Southern, born and raised in Florida, and I just don't believe in leaving my space. People are like, well, that's stupid. Well, maybe. People say, well, you'll burn up with it. And I say, well, you know what? I got some common sense. All right. I'm not going to sit in my house while it burns. I'm not going to sit in the studio while it burns. I will do my best to defend and protect and keep all the fire away from it, and all the ne'er-do-wellers that are going to come and say, well, everybody's evacuated from this neighborhood, so I'm going to go through and ransack their houses, which sadly happens. Sadly. But if the fire comes and this and that, you know what? Fire doesn't burn in the middle of a road where there's no trees or no vegetation around the edge of the tree. If I have to, I will just park myself in the middle of the road. I'll pull my truck in the middle of the road, and there I will be safe. Videotaping it all, going live, because that's what I do. I will share it with you, and I am prepared. I got all my Ryobi batteries cranked up, ready to go. I've got all the tools and the chainsaw. I checked the chainsaw. It's ready to go. So if need be to cut down some stuff to make a barrier or whatever, I can handle it. I have no doubt whatsoever. But I would not put the First Lady or any of the family through it. I will not be having Chief come over. I will not be having my Gracie come over or anybody else come over. I will stand my ground by myself. Because they don't need to be here. If something bad would happen to them, I would not be able to survive it. And also, I'm selfish. I am. I'll tell you right now, I'm selfish because I want the story where I stood down the fires of Travelers Rest, South Carolina. That's right, I did it myself. I stood there and say, you will not go further. Stop. And it worked around me like Moses in the Red Sea. I will part the flames and I will be unscathed. Or they'll just start calling me a Smoky Bob. But the smoke is in the air, and mixed with that smoke is pollen. It is so bad. Chief has bad problems with allergies. He always has. And it's beating him half to death. He is having a time because it'll put him down. He'll be sick. Them allergies will whoop him something fierce, and he's in the gym getting all swole and everything else, and he can't even put forth the effort because he's just not doing well. And then, he's got 3 kids that like to jump on him, and you never have a day off when you're a dad when the kids want to jump on you and play, because you're bulletproof, right? You're super strong. You don't hurt. It's important to your children's psyche that dad is just unbreakable, which is an unachievable expectation. Luckily, it doesn't last long, because children will go into that zone where dads are stupid. They don't know anything. Oh, Dad, they don't do it like that anymore. Oh, Dad, that's silly. Oh, Dad, you know what? I got 2 gallons of gas in my car. I don't see why I need to fill it up now. Dad, it's 3 of the 4 tires aren't going flat. It's just the one. I'll run on the donut for 6 months. It's okay. It's a donut. It's a tire. It'll work just fine. And yeah, I'll drive at 100 miles an hour, even though it says don't drive over 35. Oh, the electric bill will probably carry me for a couple months. I'm all right. I'm going to dinner. Right? Those things. Oh, you know what? I'll do my report later. My room's not that dirty. God, Dad, you just on me all the time, right? And then comes a time where they figure out that Dad is hoping for them to be the best they can be, better than he is, and that there's some merit in what he says. And then they go off to college or school or military, and they go through some times and they say, man, what would Dad do? How would Dad do this? Then they have kids. And the things that when they were kids, I've done it. Man, when I get to be a dad, there ain't no way I'm going to tell my kid because I said so. There ain't no way I'm going to punish my kid for that. It's not that big of a deal. I'm going to let him go. And as a dad, you start seeing the behind the scenes reasons why you were willing to do that, or why the frustration level was so high because I said so, save that child's life because you ready to tear that tail up. Woo, when them kids get on your nerves and life gets lifing and wife gets wifing. Not mine. Mine's amazing. First lady's phenomenal. She would never frustrate me, but it just sometimes it stacks, and the burdens and the things that you don't know Dad goes through. And then they get older, the kids get older, and then they really start seeing what you were doing, and maybe, just maybe, they'll tell you. And then you'll be like, wow, that was a pretty cool moment. And then the time comes in everybody's life, because it's coming, where there's no more life left. You're standing around there remembering Dad. You cry, and you're sad, and you start remembering, and then things start hitting you, and then you have the, I wish I would have told him, right? So, wow. Where the heck did that come from? God, dog. I'll tell you what, I know where it came from. I've been thinking about it a lot. I had a moment like that where my son did something to his son. It's one of the videos. I'm not going to do it again, but one of the videos comes out. It's going to drop April 6th. It's on a Sunday. One Proud Dad, and I'm smoking the Mickey Rita Black. It's a funny story about Stephen and his oldest son, Jackson, and Caitlin's oldest son, Caden. That's her youngest child, but it's her oldest boy, only boy. She's got 2 kids, Macy and Caden, and so it was fun to experience that, and I guess it's really impacted me a lot. Because as a dad, you have a lot of insecurities. Did I do a good job? Did I make a difference? Is anything that I say going to carry into the next generation? One of the things that I tell my kids, and I do mean this, I said, look, it's my job to make you just that much better than me. And that's how the name gets stronger. The Finley name gets stronger and carries on the legacy of who we are. It's my job to make you just that much better. And it's my job on top of that to instill in you the desire to instill into your children the desire for them to be that much better and to carry on the legacy that way. That's one of the legacy things. And I will tell you, despite me being their dad, and sometimes it's despite me being their dad, they are so much better. In their own ways. They still get on my nerves. They do. But I love them so much, and they make me proud most every day. And the young kids, the grandkids, are fantastic. And Shani Jade, which is Steven's wife, she's a great mix to the family. She grew up single kid, the only kid in the whole clan of her family pretty much at that time. So she was basically everybody's kid. And so she was very quiet. She was a book reader. She was a very good student. She was athletic. But she was very quiet. And then she goes to college and she falls in love with the loudest, biggest, brashest, craziest, most insanest person probably there, my son, Stephen, Chief. And she joins our family, and it was a culture shock because we are that family. We are loud. We love loud. We fuss loud. We fight loud. We play loud. We are just loud. In the studio, just to be for sure, when we built the studio, it would have been cheaper to put a drywall in the studio. No way in heck. I put up 3/4 inch thick plywood on all the walls. Much more expensive. We also put in spray foam, but we put in the 3/4 inch thick plywood. A couple reasons. Number one, I don't like looking for a stud to put up a picture. I just want to put a screw in the wall and be did with it. I do. I hate doing those fastener crap things and then patching and painting and this and that. I want a wall in the studio. The second reason is still to this day, me and Chief get a little wild hair up our butt and we go to roughhousing. And when you get two bulls in a china shop in a space this big, you'll put holes in drywall. And so we are tough. And the kids are tough. The grandkids, they're tough. And poor Shanny Jade is in the middle of a hurricane. But she brings something to the family that is much needed. It adds to who we are. She has changed in the past 10 years. Her and Chief just been married 10 years. She has changed in the past 10 years, grown in so many ways. And we have as well. I believe that by being in our family, we have influenced her in some differences in how she deals with things and looks at things. But I can tell you that watching her, I have been influenced in some of the things that she does, and I think that's how it's supposed to be. You're supposed to give a little and get a little, and that's what's going on with that. She's a elementary school teacher. She's very active in her church. She's very active in her kids' lives. Little Miss Projects. She does all sorts of fun little projects and this and that. She can't stand cigars. Her and the First Lady. We can't get them straight yet. Can't stand them. Stinky. Don't like them. But just like the First Lady, she supports her man. She doesn't complain or fuss. She actually took a travel with us to PCA a couple years ago. Went to Vegas, and her and the First Lady both went to Vegas. They didn't go to PCA. They went to the Grand Canyon. They went to Hoover Dam. They went to the Joshua Tree, which evidently is just a big funky cactus. They went and traveled and experienced things and got to do all that. And then we get together and meet at night at the hotel room. I think we're at the Venetian. Amazing place. And we went out to eat and hung out and this and that, and it was really, really neat. And so, she enjoys, and she's been to a barn smoker. She went to a Louisiana barn smoker. She loves the culture. She just doesn't love the cigars. Working on it. Ain't gonna happen. But so I don't know how I transitioned and all that from my struggles, my travails of posting up early content. It is Sunday. It's my only day off right now. And so I am doing probably 6 to 8 videos today. I've got 15 videos I got to get done in the next week and a half. And so I will do the podcasts and get those knocked out because I don't have to do a review per se. And my palate doesn't have to be fresh. We're just sitting here running our gums. I'm sitting here running my gums. And then I'll do some reviews and try to clean my palate between so that I've got good flavor palate. Some people ask me, when you do reviews, how do you keep your palate fresh if you do more than one review a day? There's a process. Green tea or seltzer water. I try not to eat. I know, don't look at me. I try not to eat during that time. I didn't say all the time. I mean, I can't say that. Come on. But I try not to eat or have a bunch of flavorful stuff. If I'm going to do 3 or 4 cigars, 2 or 3 cigars in the day, I try to pace myself. I do the editing in between. drinking the seltzer water or green tea, and I will try to look at the blends of the cigar. If I have a light cigar, Connecticut Shade, and then I may have a Maduro or a triple Maduro or something like that, I will do the lighter blends first because usually they have a lot more subtleties to them, a lot of more nuanced flavors, and so I want to make sure that I can pull those flavors out. I do a lot more focused thinking. Sometimes when I'm doing reviews, the blends come real easy to me, and I can pull the flavors real fast, and I'm not having to hunt for them, especially on a very fresh palate. With that being said, if I'm doing a couple reviews, I have to really dial down and focus. I give you one of my tells. When I'm reviewing a cigar, and if I look at the cigar, if I sit there and I'm looking at the cigar while I'm talking, what I'm doing is it's my ADD. I've got it really good. I'm not going to say really bad. I've got it really good. I've got like 6 things going on in my head at all times. It's like 6 TVs at all times, fighting for my attention. And so if I want to quiet a lot of those things, I have to do something to kind of distract me. I have to take and put a focus for some of those TVs on one thing really hard so that the other ones I can listen to a little better. I'm not saying I have voices in my head. I just have lots of thoughts going on all at the same time. And so when I stare at the cigar, it really helps me dial in, and then I can really focus on what's going on in my palate. So if you catch me sitting there just looking at the cigar while I'm talking and I'm smoking it and I'm pausing a lot, I'm really having to struggle to pull out the flavors. When I'm sitting down smoking a cigar by myself and I'm not on video or I'm hanging around friends and I'm not doing a review, I'm not Bob the Cigar Guy, I'm Bob the Smoker, or even if I'm at an event and I'm Bob the Cigar Guy, I'm not really worried about trying to pull a bunch of flavors unless somebody asks me, hey, so what are you tasting? Which happens. But if I'm just enjoying the cigar, I don't care what flavors I'm pulling. You really shouldn't either. If it tastes good, it tastes good, right? You don't have to dissect it if you don't want to. Now, if that's your jam, if that's your thing, if you love dissecting the flavors, if you love really scientific in it and nerding out on it, do it your way. Let nobody tell you how to do you. But don't feel like you're not smoking the cigar right if you can't pull all these flavors cigar reviewers say, or other people in your group say. If you like the cigar and you can afford the cigar and it's a cigar that fits you at the moment, smoke it. Don't worry about what it tastes like. If it tastes good, it's good, right? Facts. That's the way I look at it. As a cigar reviewer, I use that term loosely. As a person who's talking to his phone with overpriced lights in a shed with ventilation, air conditioning, and a room full of cigars with a porch light hanging behind them in a chair that they bought from a going out of business bug exterminator company. $25. The arms tore on it, but you can't see that. It's comfortable. Fits my butt. I need to tell you what I taste. I don't need to lie. I don't need to aggrandize and blow up flavors and try and tell you things that I don't taste just so it sounds good. I don't go the way of a lot of written periodicals that try to write you big stories about things and romanticize the flavors. I don't read those before the reviews because I don't want that to be in my head to possibly taint what I'm tasting. But if I now let's face it, let's talk for serious now. Just you and me. Just nobody else is in the vehicle, right? Just us, right? Let me talk to you about it. If I came on, I've been doing this 9 years now. Thousands of videos, thousands of reviews, right? Tons of reviews. If I came on every video and I said, hey, this is Bob Cigar, This is Bob the Cigar Guy. I'm smoking the Me K Rita Red by Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust, and the blend is blah 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 blah. And I'm tasting cigar. I'll see you later. Have a great day. Do you think I would continue reviewing cigars? Do you think you would keep watching? Because you would know that I'm not going to give you any real information, number one. Number two, it's not going to be entertaining. Hopefully it is. And number three, it's the same thing every time. So you're saying, okay, so he did the Mike Rita Red. Well, it tasted like a cigar. The Mike Rita Blue, well, it tasted like a cigar. Well, the Mike Rita Black, well, it tasted like a good cigar. Well, the Mike Rita Green, well, that was like a cigar, but a little bit different, right? That's, you can't do that. You have to take time to tell stories. You have to take time to tell flavors. And let's get into flavors. Luckily, I've had time to sit down and talk with food reviewers, very good food reviewers, whiskey bourbon reviewers, coffee reviewers, wine reviewers, sommeliers. A lot of the things that we say and do in our process, it's interchangeable. We come at it the same way, a little bit different. The whiskeys and bourbons, you'll hear them talk about the taste of barrel char. I will tell you, most reviewers do not go chew on whiskey barrels. I say most. I have a couple barrel staves, and that I got from the Buffalo Trace Distillery, and I wanted to taste it to see if it tasted like it smelled. I'll let you in on a little secret. It doesn't. It tastes like dirty charcoal. It does not give that deep smokiness. It does not give that bonfire flavor. It does not give the sweetness of the sugars and the brightness of the alcohol. It tastes like burnt dirt. So if I was doing a cigar review and I tasted that, number one, it would suck. But number two, it would not relate because barrel char, people don't bite barrels. Most people don't bite barrels. If you are out biting barrels, chasing parked cars, you probably need to seek professional help. Or eat better stuff. Now, if you're in the wild and you're surviving and you've eaten something that is not good for you and it's sick, you can eat charcoal and it will make you bring that up and it will purify it. Or you can put some sand in a 2-liter bottle and some charcoal on top of that, and then some screen on top of that, and you pour your water through it and it helps to distill water and take out chemicals. And all right, but as far as flavoring, no. So a lot of the reviewers of food, of wine, of whiskeys, of coffee especially, of cigars, they tell you things in two different ways. Like if I say it tastes like cedar, I'm not chewing cedar. Yes, I have, but I'm not saying that it's like what cedar tastes like. It's like that smell of cedar in a flavor. It's very interesting how it does that. How it transfers into a flavor from a smell. Grass, same thing. I'm not out eating grass regularly. Leathers, right? It's not like I'm chewing on boots or saddles regularly. It's like when you go into a stable and you go into the tack room where all the horse stuff is. You get that smell. You go into Wilson's Leather, a leather shop. You get that smell, that tannin smell, that leather smell. Excuse me. That, you know what I'm talking about? You get that, and that is a flavor. But dark chocolate, it's not what it tastes like. It's not what it smells like. It's what it tastes like. Cocoa, espresso notes, Those are flavors of flavors, right? Minerality and turned earth is more like when you are sticking your hand in fresh soil. The First Lady does raised garden beds every year, and we mix up a little bit of manure and a whole bunch of potting soil, and it's damp, and you get it in your hands, and you're stirring it up because you're getting your face kind of close to it, mixing it up, and you get that smell of that fresh turned organic material that it translates into a flavor. Even harder ones, stillness. That's a hard one. When you go into a room that has been open for a long time, it's cool, it's musty, and it's still. You get that smell, and that smell translates into a flavor. Now, your smeller and your taste buds work hand in hand. They say, and I've done the review and I don't believe it, but it did mute it some. They say if you can't smell something, then you can't taste something. And you can't taste it as much, but you can still taste it. But your smell, there's bagillions of smells that you can smell, different receptors. You have 6, I think, in your taste buds. That's why some people, more aficionados, retrohale, where you smoke it in your mouth, you allow some of the smoke to come out of your nose, and you pick up all these extra notes, and it goes from a small little bitty speaker recording of an orchestra to sitting in the pit with all the big orchestra. It's a much grander experience, a more immersive experience. And I will get asked semi-regularly, do you retrohale? I say no. And they say, why? And my pat answer, and it's a true answer, about 80% of it, is the fact that most of the people I think that watch my videos, other than you, are newer smokers. When you start to, just like when you get into cigars, you start off with the lighter, the more basic, the more simple, the less expensive. And you work your way up into the heavier blends, the more expensive blends, more boutique blends, the better blended blends. And in reviews, I believe you start off looking for somebody that's just like you, just a regular old feller or lady. And they just talk regular old country English or Yankee English or whatever, but it's just common conversations. It's not getting into all the details. But then after a while, you age out of that. You go from kindergarten to 5th grade to 8th grade to high school to college to rocket science to master's to doctorate to whatever. And so there are other reviewers who are much more better. They have a stronger palate. They have a grasp on the English language a whole lot better, and they put in much better words, and they put in a lot more work and a lot more time. I don't know if they put in any more time, but they hone their craft to where they are teaching master's theses of cigars. And those people that would watch those videos would usually retrohale. Retrohaling is intimidating. It also is difficult when you start. The other 20% of why I don't retrohale is because I don't like it. Because when that smoke comes out my nose, it makes me make faces, and I want to sneeze, and it's like a bug flying up in there. It's just not my thing. I look like I'm having a conniption fit when I retrohale. If I smoke a ton of cigars, I accidentally, naturally retrohale, and that's just a little bit, but I'll catch myself doing that when I'm smoking a bunch of cigars. But if I did a retrohale on the show, and I tell you all these amazing flavors that I'm experiencing, or my flavor experience through the smells, and you don't retrohale, then you're really not going to grasp anything that I'm talking about, because you're not doing it. And so with that being said, I don't want to make a new cigar smoker feel like they're not a good cigar smoker, that they're not a real cigar smoker. I have a friend at work, and he's new into cigars. He wants to smoke cigars. He says, hey, I really, really have been wanting to smoke cigars. That's what I think guys should do. I have family that actually do cigars in another country, and they give me cigars, and I kind of smoke them, but I don't know how to smoke them. And we have very frank conversations. I was like, well, let's talk about it. Tell me your experiences, and so we'll talk about it a couple times a week at work because we spend a lot of time at work. And he'll come up and he'll say, I got a question. How long can a cigar last if you keep it in a humidor? Great question. The question he asked me yesterday, we work Saturday, today's Sunday. Question he asked me yesterday was, all right, so if I smoke a big cigar and I don't have time to finish that cigar, did I just lose the rest of that cigar? And I said, great question, which it is. And I said, let's talk about it. And I told him, I said, it'll never be as great as the first time you smoked it. That's a fact. I said, but there are ways to make it the best possible the next time you smoke it. How soon do you want to smoke it? You want to smoke it tomorrow? You want to smoke it in a couple hours? You want to smoke it in a month? You want to save it for a year? What do you want to do with it? And then we talked about storing it. If you smoke cigars and you have a cigar left and you want to smoke it later, purge it, blow through it after the ashes, after it's done burning, well, almost when it's almost done burning, blow through it a couple times, get that smoke out of it, and then knock all the ash off and blow through it 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 times and get it purged out real good. And then put it in a Ziploc container, make sure it's out, put it in, let it sit out for a while. You don't want to burn plastic. You don't want to set something on fire. But then put it in a Ziploc bag and save it, right? Maybe a Bovita pack or something like that if you got one. Don't put it with your other cigars because that flavor will transfer over to the rest of the cigars really, really bad. It'll get in your humidor and it will stink up your humidor, and it's hard to get that smell out ever. And it'll always smell like an ashtray. Some people would say, because I'll probably get comments, some people would say that, well, before you smoke it, cut the last half an inch off, and then smoke it from there. I recommend not doing that, and here's why. Because when you burn that cigar, the last half an inch of the cigar, it gets real hard, it gets real brittle because you've taken all the humidity out of it from smoking it. It actually heats it up and it takes out the humidity, and it gets a little drier and it gets a little harder, and you will crack your wrapper really bad, probably. So that is something that I don't do. I don't see much of a difference in flavor by doing that. So the risk to reward ratio is just not good enough for me to make that decision. But we're talking about that, and then I told him once he gets into it, if he really decides this is a lifestyle he really wants to jump into, and I don't call it a hobby, I call it a lifestyle because that's what it is. When you jump into if you want to jump deeper into the lifestyle, we'll meet up at a humidor at a local lounge, and we'll go walking through. I'll just kind of show you things, and I kind of talk to you. I'll talk you through some stuff, and I'll point out some stuff and this and that. And I said, because I know it's intimidating. We're guys. We're supposed to know everything. It's especially guy things, right? You should know how to scratch. You should know how to spit. You should know how to change a tire. You know, you don't want to ask somebody how to change a tire because you have to turn in your man card, right? Or you know, all that stuff. It's weird how we guys are so sensitive to our manhood. I am. But, you know, we go through the humidor because the humidor is intimidating. You got $3 cigars that look like $30 cigars. You got dark cigars, you got light cigars, you got thin cigars, you got fat cigars, you got twisty cigars, you got pointy cigars, you got round cigars, you got tapered cigars, you got different brands on boxes, different blends, different this, different that, and it just can get so overwhelming. And then you got a tobacconist in there that's walking around with you, or a guy who worked at the cigar lounge is walking around with you asking you questions, and you don't know the answer to your questions, and you're feeling kind of intimidated, so you'll either buy a handful of cigars just to buy them and get out of there and hope that you can get something you like. And it just gets, and Lord help you if you go in there with your sweetie, right? Because you're the man, you're supposed to know this stuff, right? And you don't. And so we talk about that, and it's kind of interesting to me that people don't ask those questions. I actually have taught a class. I haven't done it in the past year. I've been extremely busy, but I'll go to a local lounge and I'll sit down with them, and it'll be Cigar 101, and it'll be a ticketed event. and we'll give away some cigars. We'll learn how to cut cigars, learn how to light cigars, learn how to store cigars, learn some etiquette, some do's and don'ts. We'll take. I bought fake Cubans from the Bahamas, and we'll cut them open, and I will show you why you should not buy Cubans from the Bahamas. Don't buy Cubans from the Bahamas. There is no real Cubans in the Bahamas. I don't care what you say. I don't. I know it. And it's not a big deal. It's a Cuban. It's not. It's not a big deal. It's a cigar. It is, but there's probably a problem with it. Cuban cigars are the second most. This was a census done or whatever statistic a couple 4 years ago. Cuban cigars were the second most counterfeited thing in the world, second only to Apple products. And what they do is they will steal trimmings from other manufacturers. Maybe there's Cuban, probably there's not. But it's sweepings off the floor. You don't know what you're going to get. I've seen hair. I've seen what I think is a fingernail. I've seen a piece of dehydrated corn, somebody's food that's in the cigar. It's a bunch of chopped up nubbins. You just don't know what you're going to get. And these people, if they are using somebody else's name and they're lying about it, they're not going to have a high integrity, so they really don't care about the product they're going to give you. And so if you've got a guy running up to you, usually guys, hardly ever girls, but somebody running up to you selling you Cubans out of a Ziploc bag that they are running with, beating up these cigars, and everybody else has got Ziploc bags running with, beating up cigars, trying to sell you cigars, you've got, and this is a matter of fact, you got a $50 Cuban, you've got a $100 Cuban, you've got a $200 Cuban, and they're all in there. And you've got 10 or 15 of all sorts of different sizes and styles and brands. And they'll sell them to you, start off at 20, 30 bucks a piece. And it doesn't matter which one you buy. They're all the same price. Really. And if you keep talking them down and you say, well, I'll buy your bag of 10 or 20 cigars and I give you 20 bucks. I'm like, no, you can't give me 20 bucks. Da 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 da. You talk them up to 50 bucks, which I did. And you get 15 or 20 cigars and they walk away with 50 bucks and you're sitting there going, if these were real Cubans, I have $2,000 here. So that doesn't make sense. If a deal is too good to be true, it is too good to be true. And then I have cut them up, and I have never found a cigar that is complete. I've always seen what's called a Cuban sandwich, which is loose filler, little chopping nubbings, little pieces and parts, rolled up with a solid binder usually and a solid wrapper because it's the only thing holding the cigar together. Now, there are cigars that are Cuban fillers that are phenomenal. One of the ones is Factory Smokes. Factory Smokes is a great cigar, but it is a Cuban sandwich. And they market it as a Cuban sandwich. And they market it at $1 to $2 a cigar. It tastes delicious. It's delightful, it's lovely. But when you're smoking it, you're going to get little pieces in your teeth. It's not going to burn the best. Well, it's going to burn good, but the ash is going to fall off every eighth of an inch because there's no structure inside holding it. One of the benefits of having full leaf premium cigars is that the actual structure of the leaf, the veins in the leaf, actually make as a scaffolding to hold your tobacco ash, and the ash is important. And it depends which way you turn that leaf. So if you put your leaf goes from the stem closest to the plant to the tip farthest from the plant. And if you look at any leaf, the veins in the leaf, the closer to the tip of the leaf, the thinner the veins are and the thicker they are towards the middle of the leaf and towards farther back you go, right? It's simple. If most manufacturers don't pay much mind to it, but some of your more premium manufacturers will make sure that those leaves, when they place those leaves in the bunch, right, the filler, They make sure that the stemmy part, the part closest to the plant, is actually farthest from your mouth, so that you have a longer, stronger structure, so that that ash stays on there longer as it burns back. Is that important? Kind of. It's neat for pictures. Who doesn't like a long ash picture? I like long ash contests. I like having a long ash for a photo. It shows good construction. After a half an inch to 3/4 of an inch, you risk the rate. I wear a lot of black shirts of getting ash all over yourself, and I call it a rookie move. And so you don't want to have too long of an ash, but an ash, a half an inch of ash to 3/4 of an inch of ash on the end of your cigar insulates the cherry, the piece that's burning right under your mascara line. That's that black line between tobacco that's been burnt and is about to be consumed. That mascara line is where your cherry is, a little bit behind it. If the cherry is small, the smoke is cool, and it's less chance of being bitter. When you smoke a cigar too fast, or it burns cockeyed, so the ember is larger, the cherry is larger, or you're puffing on it really hard and you get a big ember, big cherry, you risk burn issues, but you also can bring in the bitterness of the leaf. Also, nicotine is much easier received in your system at a higher temperature. If you smoke on pace, even though the same nicotine is going in your system, it is not as easily absorbed. That's why cigarettes burn so hot. One of the reasons. I'm not going to get all technical, because I could talk ad nauseum about that. I've listened to some great people that know a lot, and I've learned a lot about that. But there's big differences. So Nash is a good thing. Also makes for great pictures, because if you didn't put it on social media, did you really do it? No. Yes, you did. If you want to share it with people, cool. But don't feel like you have to, right? I need to take me a sip of coffee. It's only 8:30 in the morning. I'm on my first cup of coffee. Big yellow cup. Big old huge 32-ounce cup. I'll go through 4 or 5 cups of those today. I enjoy coffee with cigars. So, that Cuban filler, or the Cuban sandwich, there is no structure. And with there having no structure at all, the ash has nothing to hang on to. So when the ash gets of any weight, it's not burning evenly, because all the chunks are different sizes, and they can't hold together. There's hotter spots and cooler spots, which causes cracks in your ash, and the cracks in your ash can cause the ash to fall off prematurely. So usually, unless you're holding your cigar straight up and down like a periscope, your ash is going to come off quickly on a Cuban sandwich, which means there's going to be more air introduced into your cigar when you're puffing on it, which is going to make your cherry a little bit hotter, which gives you a propensity of a little bit of bitterness. So you probably did not want to drive home and get a deep dive on cigar nomenclature and fake Cubans in the Bahamas. By the way, there is no real Cubans in the Bahamas. Even if you go to that store on the main street that has a nice Cohiba sign and nice boxes and nice prices, man, them prices are ridiculous. They're expensive. And it's around nice jewelry. It looks fancy. And you're like, oh, these have to be real. Bubba, don't do it. Cuban cigars are sold from a company called La Casa del Habano, LCDH. That's where you get real Cubans from. La Casa del Habano has a very specific bunch of rules, and their logos are very specific. And their layouts and displays are very specific. It's run by the Cuban government. And so you have to have a contract with them to be able to have cigars. That's why we don't have Cuban cigars in America. You go up to Canada, you can go to an LCDH store, and I will tell you right now, be prepared, because some of those Cubans are $400, for one cigar. That's right, I said it, $400 for one cigar. Also in Canada, a factory smoke, which you could get here for $2, is 15. And the bands are covered with an ugly green band. You can't see the bands. They would not let you take pictures. No photos allowed. No photography allowed. I took a couple pictures, but I don't want to post them up on here. When I went to Canada, and I'm going to be honest, boy, I'm going to have some haters on this. Cubans ain't all that. They're not. I thought people have been in the game a long time. They'll say the Cubans are not the same as the Cubans were back then. And so they're not even the same Cubans. Some people have done studies, and I have not fact checked it, but some people have done studies to say Cuba puts out X amount of cigars, and by the acreage of Google Maps or Google Earth of how many tobacco fields they have, it is impossible to make that many puro cigars from Cuba because they don't have that much tobacco. Puro means all the tobacco comes from one country, so a completely Cuban cigar, they don't have enough tobacco to make that many cigars. And so the conspiracy theory is that it's not all Cuban tobacco anyway. They've depleted their soils. The soils are not as good as they used to be because they don't rotate like they should. And because of that, the tobacco does not have the same flavors. You smoke a Cuban from 10 years ago compared to a Cuban from today, you're going to get a different experience. As I sit here looking in the camera in my phone, right, don't look if you're driving, right there is actually a box of Monte Cristo number 2s that was given to me by a friend from Germany. Fantastic cigar. Love that cigar. One of my favorite cigars because it's a James Bond cigar. It is a Cuban, but it has a nostalgia to me, and it's a good cigar. It doesn't taste like a true Cuban-esque-ness to where it's very creamy, it's very smooth, it's very mild. I personally lean towards a heavier blend. There are 3 types of blends of cigars. We got 8 minutes. I'll try to wrap this up in time. There are 3 types of blends of cigars, 3 main categories of blends. You have your Cuban blend, which is Cuban. Nothing tastes like a Cuban other than a Cuban. And then you have the European blend, and then you have the American palate. The European blend is cigars that are blended. Let me back up. Each master blender has a style of the way the flavors hit you and of the way the flavors are experienced. There's lots of ways to do that through the pilon process, through the priming process, through the barn aging process, the drying process, through the seed selections, to the way they deal with the seedlings. And then the pilon process, you can bring some flavors to the front, and you can push some flavors to the back, and you can change a lot in that. And then, by the way you lay your tobacco in the cigar, it's different ways of flavors going to hit you. Kind of like chicken soup, which you don't taste the celery, you don't taste the chicken, you don't taste the carrots. You taste chicken soup compared to a fruit salad, where you taste each piece of fruit individually. The flavors hit you differently. And so, in a European palate, the flavors are all blended. They're very melanged. They're very intertwined and integrated. They don't have much transition. Transition is flavors change as it goes back. There's strength, where the flavor is going to get a little stronger. It's going to get a little muddier as it goes back because the smoke is actually imparting itself into, so you're getting the flavor of the pre-smoked or the earlier smoked tobacco in the soon-to-be smoked tobacco. And I'm not talking about that, but the flavor changes from, it's got lots of cedar notes to lots of leather notes, and the cedar's gone, and here comes black pepper. So the European palate, it's kind of, if you like the first puff, you're going to like the last draw. As it goes back, it's just going to get a little stronger. The American palate, which an older statistic says 80% at least of all cigars sold in the world, consumed in the world, are consumed in America. We smoke more cigars than anybody else in the world, and we are less than 3% of of Americans consider themselves cigar smokers. And out of those 3%, over 80% of those people only smoke 3 to 5 cigars a year. So you are keeping up the percentages, because I know you smoke more than 3 a year. I know it. If you're here, you smoke a good amount of great cigars. But the European palate, we desire jazz, we desire country westerns, we desire rock and roll, we desire roller coasters. We want flavors to hit us. We don't want to be bored or satiated with just the same flavor as it goes back. We want something to change a little bit. We want to mix it up. We want to jazz it up a little bit. We want to make things happen. So the European palate, or the American palate, is going to punch you faster out of the gate. Usually, it's going to mellow out a little bit. It's going to punch you again. It's going to give you a little bit more. Then it's going to change. It's going to have the flavors, but the flavors are going to swap. The ones that are in front are going to go more to the back. The ones in the back are going to become soloists, and it really just keeps you engaged. It's that American palate. Now there are outliers. There are companies that would have lots of flavors and they don't transition. It happens. And then there are some European manufacturers that they have more transitions. It happens, but I'm talking in generalities. I'm talking in, just the average, right? I can never put you in an average, because you were just one, and so you're the average of one. You are an individual and you're awesome. And I'm so glad you're here. I am. I hope you've had a great week. We didn't talk about you much today. How are you doing? How's life? Spring's here. It's time to start going to Home Depot and Lowe's and Ace Hardware and everywhere else and buy the plants and buy the furniture and start getting in that turned earth and minerality and making things grow and mowing your weeds. And luckily I have a riding lawnmower. I can mow my lawn in one cigar, but I drive real slow. And I make it look like a baseball field in the front yard, not because I really want to, but because I want to smoke 2 cigars. So I get out there with my AirPod and my Diet Pepsi and my 2 cigars, and I'll just roll around and listen to my music and have a good moment. I enjoy smoking cigars with doing tasks. I like smoking cigars on their own, there being the only thing that I'm dealing with. I like smoking them with people and hanging out and allowing that to be part of the conversation. But then when I'm doing a task, I like to have a cigar in my mouth. If I mow my lawn and I'm not smoking a cigar, it's not fun. It's not. If I smoke a cigar while I'm mowing, it's much, much nicer. Now, I make sure that I put my lighter, I get a less loved lighter, one that's just a rugged lighter. I put it deep in my pocket so it doesn't fall out. If it falls out, I'm not mad that I lost a $100 lighter. And I make sure that my cigar bands go into my pocket. I don't throw them in the yard, because those don't seem to ever decay. When I'm done with my cigar, here's a little tip. When I'm done with my cigar, if you just take a cigar and you pitch it in the yard, right? You got the little nub left, you pitch it in the yard. That nub will be there looking like a dog turd for 5 years. It will. It will not break down. But it's leaves. So if you stop and you grab where the cap is and you stick your fingers in there and you split it and you turn it into just a mess of leaves and you just throw it on the ground and step on it, make sure the fire's out, it's gone in minutes. It just blends in with the environment. So if you're at somebody's house and you're smoking in the backyard and they've got no ashtray and they just say pitch it over there, just be respectful. Just tear that thing into pieces and just kind of throw it in some dirt kind of thing and stomp it out. Make sure it's all out completely, and then you don't have to worry about it. Because I smoke a lot of cigars outside. If I was smoking cigars outside and just pitching them in the yard, number one, my wife's dog Gideon, big St. Bernard, stupid dog, that boy eats cigars. He'll eat a cigar. He's eaten my cigars before. I've done reviews outside and walked in the house and he's eaten a cigar. So, stupid dog. But it would also look bad. So I just peel them apart and everything else. But it is that time for you to go home. If you're in the house in your driveway, get out of the vehicle. Don't Have the car running when you do this. Get out of the vehicle, get in the house, and start living. Because the people on the outside of that car in your house are the ones that love you and the ones that you love. Start having a great weekend. Get your batteries charged, smoke a cigar, and I highly recommend this Mickey Rita Red. Or anything else. Leave me a comment. Tell me what you're smoking this weekend. I would love to know. I would. I'll see you later. Bob Cigar Guy saying, later, Tater. Drive safely. Oh, wait. I have 12 seconds. So we have to keep talking for 12 seconds. I hope you cut me off already, but if you didn't, we've got 4 seconds, 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 1 second. Bye-bye.